You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Get started in this crossover edition with the consummate professional, the guy of the group that keeps me somewhat level-headed at times, Mr. Chris Level. How are you doing today, brother man?
Coach Stovall, I'm doing wonderful. How are you, sir?
Well, you know, I try not to complain because I learned a while back nobody really listens anyways. All right, buddy. So whenever you look at this matchup, this should be the potential budding rivalry of the league for the original Hateful Eight Old Guard. And this is a game that used to make a lot of sense, right? But it just doesn't. Neither does the Big 12 this season. But as you look forward to this particular matchup, what is your opinion on the differentiation between Mike Gundy right now and what they're doing down in Lubbock with Joey McGuire, right? There's a recent article where Joey's trying to push some younger freshmen to get prepared for the bowl game in 2025. Meanwhile, Mike Gundy is going to roll out a senior-laden group because it is senior day, and he's just that style of guy. What do you think about the two differentiations here, buddy?
Well, first of all, it made no sense to me that these two teams didn't play last year. I don't understand that this should be an every year deal. You should be in the same pod. You're
preach.
I think these two schools are is proximity wise closer than I think maybe TCU is closer to the other two, but to Oklahoma State and to Texas Tech, but. Yeah, this is a game that has always been a difficult one for Texas Tech. And you know that as well as I do. I mean, the epitome of consistency has been Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy. The criticisms, okay, didn't beat Oklahoma enough, and you weren't winning the conference championship. However, aside from those two, and I get those criticisms, and those are fair. They were doing everything else, beating Texas all the time, beating everybody all the time. And I would have lost a great deal of my own money had I wagered what I thought would happen this year and that Oklahoma State would just be – I'm getting ready for this game, and it's like these are the same guys that played for the conference championship in Arlington last year. I mean, much of the same.
Same team. Exact team.
And I get the Colin Oliver and Nick Martin injuries were massive, and sometimes certain guys change the dynamic of your team when certain guys and who they are. The quarterback play, I think everybody would agree in Stillwater has not been good enough and all that. But it just there's still so much that you look at and all that. But it's you're talking about a situation here in Lubbock. They had a chance to stay in this conference race against Colorado a week and a half ago and could not do it. I think Colorado's hitting their stride right now, and you fought them for a little bit, but you just weren't as good as they were. Their defensive line just got after you, and too much speed, too many turnovers, those kinds of things. And so here we have this game where Texas Tech's already bowl eligible. Oklahoma State has been eliminated from that, and I do think Joey's looking at some younger pieces that potentially, there's some injuries that have dictated some of that too. You're that's what sucks about some of the unintended consequence in that is that if you're not in the conference race, you almost kind of start to look ahead to next year in the next phase. That's what a bowl game is now. It's you're going at it with not your normal roster. You've got guys in the portal. You've got, just all kinds of dynamics. So I think that, they're going to kind of look ahead to the future just a bit. But you've still got some older guys too. And I know Coach Gundy is got a senior day. And so you've got, 26 guys, I think is right. That
that are officially listed, but we're going to end up about 35-ish when it's all said and done.
Because that doesn't include like an Ollie Gordon.
Correct.
Or some of those
or
guys.
Nick Martin or Colin Oliver.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? I like the idea of building for the future. I do find it slightly perplexing that Mike Gundy is not doing that. But at the same time, Mike Gundy's track record is to celebrate the seniors sometimes a little bit too much. His evaluation of upperclassmen as opposed to some of the younger talent, has always been a little bit of an oddity, realistically. But at the end of the day, this is about getting W's, and Texas Tech is 1-9 in the last decade in Stillwater, America. So I will say that does give me cause for excitement, as does this Alan Bowman thing. Because let's face it, man, emotions are part of the game. And emotionally, Oklahoma State hasn't had a lot of reason to get up. But I think this is a game that is a little bit different. It is senior day. You do have a retribution moment for Alan Bowman. You know, he wants to go out on his shield, right, for this particular game. And before we get to that, though, real quick, Texas Tech fans are happy with Joey McGuire and the current transition of Texas Tech. The new facility looks absolutely phenomenal. The recruiting is continuing to uptick. The excitement level in Lubbock is still pretty much the same as going into the season. Would you say that's accurate, or is it damping down a little bit because of not being in the Big 12 title contention?
Yeah, I think this team was picked to finish. I'm trying to remember, like 8th or 9th. They were kind of a middle of the pack team. You were under the radar. Yeah, I think when you start out the conference season and you win the first 3 games, I think everybody dared to dream a little bit. And then you lose. You come off the bye week and you get hammered by Baylor, who hasn't lost since. Yeah, and then you have a game in your back pocket that you just can't figure out a way to finish it in Fort Worth, and that led to a lot of frustration. Then you come back and you knock off Iowa State and kind of put them on the struggle bus a little bit, and they would go on
bipolar Big 12, baby.
Week to week sport, man. It's a week to week sport. But I think there's some frustration just because I think people. They thought there was a chance, and like, okay, like you've got facilities, you've been recruiting relatively healthy, and just couldn't quite get over the hump and stay in the race for a bit longer. Because I think if you'd have beaten Colorado, we're having a much different conversation here because you're still very much in the thick of this thing. But that just kind of now you're back to, okay, we want to try to win 8 regular season games, maybe get that 9th one in the bowl game and continue to progress the program and grow it. But it's not the same thing as potentially a trip to Arlington and all those things. But I think generally speaking, people are pleased with the progress. But there's some frustration here too. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. People want to win. Yeah. Just like, just like what the criticisms, even when Mike Gundy was winning, sometimes it wasn't enough for, okay, who wasn't over? There's no hardware to hold up. So I certainly get it.
Yeah, I've been part of that frustrating piece of the Oklahoma State fan base with Mike Gundy. But I will admit, right, there is some anticipation for this particular ball game. I don't know that excitement would be the right word, but there is some anticipatory factors that do make this somewhat intriguing. Now, before we shift gears here, if Chris Lovell was the coach at either university, do you agree with the approach of both gentlemen, or would you change some things? Like, do you agree with Joey McGuire's, I'm going to play young guys to get ready for the bowl game in 2025, or would you side more on the Mike Gundy, I'm going to play all the older dudes that have been here for 4 or 5 years?
You know how I would answer that? I think it's like if,
you're going to be politically correct. I can feel it coming.
Well, I would say that if this was professional sports and I knew there was draft pick at stake, right. I don't care about the result per se, and I'm wanting to be better big picture. Right. In the college sense, I want to win. So to answer your question, I'm going to put whoever is out there that helps me win, period. And if you feel that your younger guys give you a better chance, and maybe it would be difficult with being loyal with some of the older guys, but I'm if I have to turn the page on somebody, that's just what it's going to take. But I want to win that day, and then I want to look to win the next day. So that's how I would answer that. Whatever gives me the best chance to win, because there's no, I'm not improving my draft situation. I mean, right. There's nothing like that in this deal. So you're trying to win every time out, and so I can't pretend to know which younger players give me that best chance. I mean, everybody's got their opinion about some of the younger guys in Lubbock, right, and all that. But that's how I would answer that. Yes.
How dare you be logical and practical? Hey, you guys are overall pretty happy about your NIL collective situation in Lubbock. Is that accurate?
I think that they have been, they're not probably as well funded as some, maybe in those other two leagues,
Right.
But I think they've been well ahead of the curve. I think they do a good job with it. They're very organized. And I think most importantly, everybody, administration, coaches, donors, everybody's on the same page.
That's a big deal, man.
And I agree. And that's the hardest thing. You got a lot of egos
right.
with some of this stuff. And at some places there's multiple collectives. It's like, I don't agree with that guy, the way he's doing it. So let's just do our own. And then you're fighting and all that stuff. But everybody here very much on the same page. But it's all changing. It's all changing. I don't know how Oklahoma State's situation is.
Well, we've got some work to do in the NIL department, especially after this year, because we did find a way to pony up for Ollie Gordon, the O-line, Alan Bowman, Colin Oliver, Nick Martin, Kendall Daniels, and then it equaled nothing. So from a donor's perspective, it's like the first year we uptick the NIL to at least a competitive level, and then we get the worst season in 20-plus years as a result, right?
Not good timing.
It's taken a little bit of a hit, but that is okay, because if you want to be part of NIL and not have to worry about it going to a massive collective, have your hand in the most generational aspect of NIL, in my personal opinion, and that is going to be Roy. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to get squared away today to help your favorite players. The NIL collectives, it's kind of a crazy mixed bag of emotions. So the best way for you to be involved in NIL and support your favorite players is with Roy. Listen up, ladies and gentlemen. You got to download the Roy app. You've heard us talk about it, right? You've heard about the reasons in it being pretty revolutionary in the NIL industry, because it allows you, the fan, the individual, to have a say in who gets the NIL dollar bills. What I personally love about Roy is you get your money back if the player were to transfer, and it's also going to help you keep the team together so you can watch them long-term in the future. You get to see the players grow, and you get to be a part of their growth individually. Let's have a spotlight for this particular game for my Cowboys. Ladies and gentlemen, I feel like we do have to take a minute to understand that Iman Oates is kind of that guy. And if he comes back, he can definitely be the dude that season. So we're helping out Iman Oates today, and I need you to download the Roy app to help him out as well. If you see the Roy logo and you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you go join Roy.com. Download the Roy app. Get with Roy today. Join Roy.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDON. Every athlete from every team is in there. It's accessible for you. There's no purchase necessary, void or prohibited. Go to joinroy.com for the full terms. Make sure that you support the players that you want to individually, that you know are going to have the capability to change the game. Download Roy app today. Well, we don't have a Roy on the team, buddy, but we do have an Alan Bowman, which means we get a piece of this Alan Bowman show. Right? We don't get to play in a bowl game, so this is our bowl game. This is our Alan Bowman Bowl. And you know this is a game that he's had circled for quite some time. And at one point in time, he was being hailed as a future Patrick Mahomes. I'm sure you recall that, in Lubbock. So what a full circle moment 18 years later, seemingly, for Alan Bowman. What are you looking for in this particular game? Is there some semblance of a reverence when it comes to Alan Bowman in Lubbock, or is Texas Tech Nation ready to see Bowman get absolutely dominated in Stillwater? What are your thoughts, buddy?
Well, Cody, what's funny is you mentioned earlier in the show about Texas Tech is 1-9 in their last 10 trips to Stillwater.
Yes, sir.
Alan Bowman responsible for the one win.
I did not know that.
Yes, it was. I believe it was his first career start. This was in 2018. This is how long Alan Bowman's been in college. That was 2 head coaches ago for Texas Tech. Cliff Kingsbury was still the head coach, and Alan Bowman threw for I think 300 plus and played pretty well that night. And you kind of thought that was a sign of things to come. Yeah. Couldn't quite sustain it. I think he would have his moments. There were some injuries here that kind of derailed that, which has been the
Yes.
problem in Lubbock at the QB position for the last decade plus. Just punctured lungs, and he had a collarbone issue, and all those things. I have seen Allen. I think he actually was at media days. He had a good conversation with Kirby Hokut, the athletic director. I don't think there's any ill will between Allen and Texas Tech now, because it's a whole different staff. He left the Matt Wells regime and departed there. There's nobody that's here now that was even here whenever he made that decision to be recruited here or left here or anything like that. But I mean, he's a grapevine kid. I think actually Joey McGuire said earlier in the week that when he was at Baylor, they knew were well aware of Allen and tried to recruit him and all that to Baylor. The thing about and this sounds harsh in some ways, but I can put Taj Brooks in the same sentence. These guys have been in college for a long time, and they are good at times college players. I think Taj is probably a lot better than Allen is when you look at the career and all that. However, they are still in college for a reason. If they were elite, if they were special, they'd be playing in the NFL right now. And I think Taj has been a phenomenal college running back. Absolutely. Set the record for most rushing yards and all that stuff, but he lacks elite speed. And I think Alan Bowman lacks some of the arm strength, some of the decision making, some of those things.
His footwork in the pocket is just so elementary, and that's the only part of his game that doesn't make sense to me, that he hasn't developed his footwork in the pocket. I don't understand. And I'm not throwing shade, but after 7 years of college football, if you can't figure out how to keep your feet width accurate and stay in the pocket, it's a crazy lack of development in that area that just blows my mind, man.
And that's where, like in the comparison I just gave you, that's where I think Taj and like Allen are different, in that Taj is going to be extremely consistent. He's getting his. And the thing about Allen is that over his career, he could throw for 350 or he could throw for 60. And he could throw for 4 touchdowns or 3 interceptions, and you're just not real sure what you're going to get week to week and month to month and all those things. And that's what's, it's the hardest thing in sports, man, is trying to be consistent. So I don't know what Allen's motivation will be. I saw him. I was in Stillwater for a Tech basketball game 2 or 3 years ago in the middle of broadcasting one, and I feel this tap on the shoulder, and the game's going on, and I don't turn around, and then I feel another tap on the shoulder. Finally, we went to commercial. I turned around, and it was Allen. He just wanted to say hi. He's a good kid. He's smiling all the time. I get that it hadn't been what anybody's wanted, but I'm sure there is some motivation for him on Saturday. There's no doubt. We'll see what we get, because I think what teams have basically said is, okay, this offensive line scares me. This running game scares me. We're going to load that up. We're going to make this quarterback try to beat us. And I think most of the time this year, he's not been able to do that consistently.
I'll tell you what, man, the salt and pepper in the beard shows your wisdom, but you calling Alan Bowman a kid kind of shows your age. All right. You did that. You did that.
Yeah.
All right?
He's a grown man. Yeah. He's an adult. His 26th year of school, I guess, or something. Yeah. He's in 24th grade or something. I can't remember.
Well, one thing I will say is, like you mentioned, you don't necessarily know what his headspace is going to be or something to that effect. What I will say is this team collectively, and it is very visible on the field, has lacked motivation in the last few weeks. It is what it is. We are where we are. You're visibly seeing guys kind of give up on plays that they used to not give up on. But if there's a week, right, for everybody to get excited off of a bye week, Alan Bowman specifically, I think, is going to play this game with a little bit more meaning. And if the offensive line, the defense, right, catch a little bit of fire off of the bye week, I do think that this is a game that we actually have the capability to win. And a lot of it is just some of the emotions that are involved with being dead last in the Big 12, 0 in the conference, a reunion of some sorts for Alan Bowman. He's going to have a lot of family and friends there. I think that added motivation, if it's infectious, right, throughout the entirety of the locker room, this could be a game where we actually get up for. and have some fun. And if we do that, we have the athletic ability to stay with everybody, right? But we just, as a team, have been horrendous in clutch moments this season. Maybe that changes because it's not like Texas Tech has the greatest pass defense in the league by any stretch of the imagination. I'm sure Alan Bowman knows that as well. Maybe there's a little extra film study this week for Alan Bowman. All right, buddy. So since we do know that Joey McGuire is going to have a significant amount of underclassmen, get a little bit more PT in the upcoming games, Oklahoma State has played a decent amount of freshmen as of recently, and they've been very productive. So we'll make sure to hit that as well. But before we do that, we do have to remind the fine folks out here that whenever you are looking to go anywhere to see anything or do anything, the travel and all that hooliganry, it's not fun. So what you need to do is get rid of all the hooliganry and get the best in the business when it comes to you getting your tickets. Gametime is where you need to be to get tickets to almost anything. We're sports people. We're junkies, you could say, but it's not just for sports. If you're into music, comedy, theater, local events near you, the Gametime Picks is going to make it easier for you to get tickets faster and easier. You don't have to sift through thousands of tickets for thousands of minutes anymore, thanks to Gametime Picks. They take all the fluffy stuff out and find you the best deals instantaneously. And right now, they have the Game Picks, which makes it easier for you to save more on everything around you when you're looking to get the best tickets. The all-in pricing shows the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. The panoramic view is the bee's knees that you need to see because you get to see your seats before you purchase. And the Gametime ticket coverage means that this is the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry, and you get to be a part of it. So take the guesswork out of you buying tickets with Gametime Picks. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, of course. Create that account, redeem that code, LOCKEDONCLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today because you already know what it is, ladies and gentlemen. It is game time. And then after you get your Gametime figured out, you got to make sure that your mobile capabilities are ready to rock and roll, and Mint Mobile is going to provide that for you. Guys, we all love sports, right? We all get carried away, but I'm not going to get in a fight with a bobcat in a phone booth just to save a couple dollars, right? I don't want to jump through hoops or deal with the hooliganry. That's why Mint Mobile is here to help us get easy wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan. Turns out it's really easy to get wireless for $15 a month. The longest part of the process was trying to put your old provider on the back burner and get prepared for the new boo. The new boo can be yours with Mint Mobile. Get started today with mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. Of course, all one word. You'll see right now, all 3-month plans are only $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number with you, along with all of your existing contacts. I can't speak English today. That's okay. New customers, your offer is to get this 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month. Go to mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. That is mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month with mintmobile.com/lockedoncollege. Get squared away today with the best phone plan in the game. All right, buddy. So now let's talk about some of the young cats that are going to be rocking and rolling. I think everybody in the country, of course, Big 12 Nation, has been waiting to see the 5-star wide receiver do a little bit more. Is this a week where Micah is back there returning punts, returning kicks, getting a little wild, loose, and crazy out there? What do you think, buddy?
But by the way, shout out to you for using hooliganry. I will mark that off the bingo card. That's well done, sir. You're a true professional. Yes. I can't. I don't know if he's healthy. I think that there's a chance. Right. I mean, last game that we saw him, he was on the sideline with a boot on, not in uniform. I think it's just been a kind of a frustrating dynamic this year where he just hasn't. He hasn't been what he had hoped. He hasn't been, and then now I think dealing with an injury. If healthy, then yeah, I think you'll see him at wideout. You'll see him potentially, get a shot at to return some punts. There's another freshman wideout named Kelby Valson that I think you'll see some of regardless. I think there's a running back named Jacoby Williams that has been a good returner from kicks and then has shown some flashes running back. Nobody will say this, and I don't want to infer it, but there was this record that Taj was trying to break here by the all-time leading rusher.
Yeah.
And now that is behind you, I'm trying to think of how to choose my words here, but it's almost like, okay, that you don't have that burden anymore. And so you don't maybe feel like you have to, not that anybody was, I'm just saying, but not that was a thing and now it's not. So
you don't feel like there is a propensity now to feed him unnecessarily, essentially?
Maybe, and not that they were before, but specifically not. Now you can maybe rest him a bit more. You don't feel like you're, whatever. So they've got some good freshmen.
I get it. Back. We have a perfect example in Brendan Presley, right? Yeah. There was 2 games there where he was getting 15, 16, 17 passes. That was strategic, right? That was 100% to get him the record. So, yeah, you understand that the coaches do lean that way occasionally. So I get it.
And he's a great kid and a great player too, by all accounts. I think everybody speaks extremely highly. He's just Mr. Consistent.
Yes.
And he'll be a problem for Texas Tech because on third down when Alan Bowman drops back, guess where he's going with the ball?
Right.
And so not a big secret and all those things, but. Those are some of the younger guys. Could they start a true freshman at left tackle? Maybe. Jacob Ponton is a guy they're extremely high on. He's got 2 games he could still play and not lose his red shirt and all those things. I don't know if they'll go that route or if it'll be Ty Buchanan, but keep an eye on that one.
Okay.
Defensively, they're playing so many of the young guys already. That's just kind of been their story, and that's why they've been inconsistent and struggled just because there's a lot of inexperience coming into the season. There's a lot of true, redshirt freshmen, true sophomores, true, then you got your some true freshmen mixed in. I mean, there's just a lot of youth on that side. So there's really not anybody waiting in the wings because they're already playing. And that's kind of the side of it here. But this game to me, this will be a lot about who's playing quarterback for Texas Tech. And I'll go back to 2022 because Baron Morton made his first career start in Stillwater. He played phenomenal most of the day. He would get a high ankle sprain at the end of the first half, which would alter the dynamic in the second half because I think they were winning at the time, and he's throwing it all over the place. I mean, they threw for nearly 400 yards in this game. And was really going down the field with the ball. He was, playing really, really well. And Mike Gundy, even after the game, would say, this kid's going to be a problem for the rest of this league. But he tweaked his ankle in that game. It was a high ankle sprain. He stepped on somebody in the pocket and then kind of was not the same the rest of the year because it was just lingering. But I think that it how he plays, that they could really try to air it out more and really be more aggressive. Joey kind of hinted at this in his weekly media availability. We'll see. And some of it may depend on how Oklahoma State plays them. Because Colorado said, we're going to play cover 2. You're not beating us over the top. We're going to make you run it. And Texas Tech couldn't really do it. So I don't know what Oklahoma State will how they'll choose to go about it defensively. But I'm curious. As much as Alan Bowman, I'm very curious how Baron Morton handles himself on Saturday because I think he'll go a long way in deciding this game one way or the other.
Well, I think Baron Morton is the truth, right? I've told you from the get-go, I thought he was the most underrated quarterback coming into the season. And it is curious that you do have, seemingly a lot of injuries that kind of derail or slow down very, very, very promising young guys, right? That it is an oddity that you guys are dealing with it. You have a freshman, he shows out and then he's hurt, right? And you continuously have this issue. All right, man. From a Cowboy perspective, for Red Raider Nation, we've got some freshmen to pay attention to. Safety number 18, David Kabongo. He's been absolutely killing it. Safety number 14, Landon Cleveland, who turned down Texas and Oregon to come to Oklahoma State. He's somebody to pay attention to. I think from a defensive line perspective, it's going to be a lot of the older guys. We do have Landon Dean as a redshirt freshmen that will be in there at the defensive end spot occasionally. Offensively, we've got a true freshman in Rodney Fields that should be able to spell. Ollie Gordon occasionally. And his few moments that he's played this season, he's played very well. But by and large, it's going to be a lot of the main characters. Your Ollie Gordons, your Brennan Presleys, your Alan Bowmans, your Dejon Striblings. And then defensively, I really don't know, man. That's the biggest question. I poked fun at Texas Tech's defense and Alan Bowman maybe being able to have a decent day. But I don't know if you've checked. Our defense doesn't like to stop oxygen. So, yeah, whether it's Baron Morton or it's been a small sample size, but when Barron was hurt, Will Hammond actually looked pretty decent as well. And don't y'all have another big-time recruit waiting in the wings at quarterback as well?
Well, Will Hammond is that guy. Yeah,
okay.
Will Hammond is the guy that he's the true freshman.
Okay.
He can now play in either one of these games and still maintain being a red shirt. But yeah, there's a lot of Will Hammond talk here. It's just funny because when Tyler Shuck was here, everybody wanted to see Baron Morton.
Yeah.
Now everybody gets Baron Morton and they're like, yeah, we want to see Will Hammond. That's just kind of how it goes. You know this.
I was about to say, you've been doing this as a legitimate professional for long enough to know that the backup quarterback is always the most popular dude on the roster at every level there is imaginable. All right, man. I know you're a very busy individual and you got a lot of stuff to do. I don't want to keep you too long, so we'll knock out some predictions real quick. This has all been a buildup for me to say that I do think the Cowboys actually get the W this time because of the bye week, because of the anticipatory nature in which I expect Alan Bowman to operate, because it's Texas Tech and it's kind of a homecoming. He is eligible for an 8th year, but I don't expect him to take it. So this is likely his last game ever in Boone Pickens Stadium. So with that and the bye week and the youth that we do have on defense that seems to be a little bit more promising than some of the original starters, as long as we don't wait too long to install the best players, I think we get a close W here. I'm thinking 28-24 style of ball game. What are your thoughts? I know you can't give a score because, again, you have to be all professional and call the game.
I think you touched on what I would point out in that this is all about the start of this game to me. I think it's about the first quarter and a half. I think if you're Oklahoma State and you start off well, they're going to be in this thing. I think if Texas Tech starts off really well, I would wonder if Oklahoma State will stick with it and they will keep, that's just, so to me, it really points to, between about 2:35 p.m. and until about 3:30, that's where the game will be decided ultimately. But I do think, I as a Tech guy, doing this for a long time, I have PTSD from 2005.
Oh, wow.
So I'll just reminisce just a bit for a second. This was ultimately a 9-win Texas Tech team. This was Mike Gundy's first year, I believe.
Yes.
You go up there as a double-digit favorite. You're having a really good year. You're 8-1. You're 13th in the country, and you just go up there and you just kind of kicked it around a bit. And Oklahoma State was 3-5 at the time.
Yeah.
And they won 24-17, and you just couldn't get it going that day. And you'd come right back the next week and you'd beat Oklahoma. And then you play Alabama in the Cotton Bowl. So I think this game potentially could be a mucked up and a bit ugly, kind of thing. But to me, it's all about who starts the fastest. And if we're sitting there at 14-all or something at halftime, then all bets are off. Then it's like, okay, well, I guess it's not going to be about the start. But I think the longer you let Oklahoma State hang around, the more dangerous it's going to be for Texas Tech, because the longer they hang around, they may go, hey, man, screw it. Let's just go ahead and win this thing. And for Texas Tech, there's not some big payoff here. It's just a tricky spot for the Red Raiders. And I know how difficult it is to win in Stillwater. So to me, all about the start. That's why I could see them coming out very aggressive early. And if that works, great. If not, look out. So I'll leave it there.
I think you're 100% accurate because we're not designed to be able to do a large comeback. We're just not, right? We have to have at least some semblance of a balanced offense for us to be able to matriculate down the field, get enough first downs to stay in ball games. So yeah, if y'all get up 21-3 pretty quick, I do not see us coming back unless we do a lot of different things with personnel groupings. And Mike Gundy just typically doesn't like to do all that. And before we skedaddle, I'll leave you with this fun little tidbit. So 2005, that's when I was playing at Friends University. Yeah. And it was our worst year in quite some time. And I remember that was the first time and only time I bet against Oklahoma State, because there was a guy on the roster from the Lubbock area. He was a backup quarterback, and he made a bet, right, that he thought Oklahoma State was going to win. And I was like, dude, there's no way we're going to beat you guys. So we made a bet. And then we went to the dorm rooms and watched it. And I was like, how is this? This is not the same team that I've watched all season. What is happening right now? So the first and last time I bet against Oklahoma State was that game.
There you go. The rest is history.
There it is. All right, buddy, Chris, I'm greatly appreciative of your time. And honestly, man, I can't wait to do some more of these in basketball season. I know basketball's more of the Tortilla Reckham Tech territory, but our basketball team, Chris, I'm telling you, we just talked about ugly, dirty, nasty and how that needs to be the ticket for Oklahoma State to get this game. You grew up as an Eddie Sutton dude. I'm sure I don't know that you did. I'm assuming you did because you're a professional and you probably dig basketball quite a bit, so on and so forth. Steve Lutz is not Eddie Sutton, but that old school Eddie Sutton practice with football pads and helmets on, diving through people, laying out for loose balls 24/7. That is this basketball team. So it's not pretty. We don't look great, but dude, our defense is nasty and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, and you know this as well as anybody, but this league is just a monster.
Yes.
On the hardwood. So yeah, you better be prepared to get your knuckles bloodied night in and night out.
That's going to say we might get the bottom of the conference, but I promise you teams aren't going to enjoy playing us.
Yeah, there you go. That's very, very fair point. So yeah, both of these programs in good hands with their head coaches. Yeah, Grant McCaslin doing a good job for Texas Tech. So man, I appreciate you hosting today. Keep hope alive to everybody out there. Thank you for watching this. We'll see everybody at T-Boone I guess on Saturday afternoon. How about it?
All right, buddy. Well, I actually will be covering the Friends University playoff game.
Okay.
So I will not be in Stillwater, but you know what? You have a blast. If you need any, I don't know, you're going to be hanging out with your daughter any daggone ways, I would imagine.
I will.
There you go. So
Yeah.
you get to have a pleasant trip regardless of the outcome of the ball game. And of course, Stillwater is a phenomenal place. I am going to be just an hour and a half up the road, so I am deliberating on whether I might try to do a little bit of both. But we'll see. I will keep everybody updated. Chris, it's been an honor. I greatly appreciate your time. Anytime you want to do something, feel free to give me a holler. Yeah, dude, this is going to be hopefully at least intense enough to build some of that rivalry talk between these two ball clubs for next season. That is one thing I am looking forward to. I don't want to have a bunch of niceties, right? We can't be rivals with K-State because we're both just too nice to each other. And I think the same can be said for KU. And there's not a lot of bad blood between us and Texas Tech, but if there's going to be a rivalry, dag nabbit, the boys need to embrace it, and they need to throw some hands on the field, make it fun.
Yeah, well, and just remember, it's a gun, not a pistol.
Yeah,
so there you go.
I don't know. All right, buddy.
All right, see you, man.